All right, hello, you guys. Um, okay, share. Okay, uh, so we're dealing with Helminths. Okay, so sorry I deleted this part. So let's talk about the characteristics of Helminths. Okay, okay. So make sure you know how to describe a definitive host and intermediate host. Okay. Um, Okay. And know how to compare and contrast platyhelminths and nematodes. Okay. By definition, platyhelminths are flatworms. Nematodes are roundworms. So nematodes are round. Okay. Platyhelminths are flat. That makes a big, huge difference. I know it sounds stupid, but it makes a huge, huge fundamental difference. Okay. Okay. They're all multicellular eukaryotic animals. This is where the part where they're not really microbes. They're actually, full-size animals. Except when we eat them, we usually get in their body as microbes, and then they grow from that. Okay. Um, so they're classified under microbes, but not really. Okay. They're multicellular eukaryotic animals. Okay. Um, they are specialized to live in hosts. Okay. And therefore, they might lack digestive systems, especially platyhelminths. Okay. Um, so platyhelminths, flatworms, they're flat. And therefore, they're very thin, and therefore food can diffuse through them very quickly. Okay, and therefore some of them don't even have a digestive system at all, like tapeworm. They don't really have a digestive system at all. Okay, they have a reduced nervous system because they're not inside your body. They're not running away from anything. They're not really making decisions on like what to eat, where to hide, um, what to have for dinner, uh, and everything else. Okay, they are reduced and lacking locomotion because literally what they do, they have a little mouth. They attach their little mouth to your gut, and then the rest of them just kind of goes off, and that's it. Okay. Um, Either they stay in your gut, or the ones that get in your bloodstream, they just move around your bloodstream. Your heart pumps them around and moves them around, so they don't need um, really locomotive systems. Okay, they just kind of flip around and swim a little bit, but they don't. It's not complex. Okay, but the big huge problem is they need to get out of you. Okay, their eggs and sperm need to get out of you for reproduction. And so we'll talk about how different animals solve that strategy. But that's the only part of them that's really more complex. Because now if they're stuck inside you, they still need to, breathe and stuff. So they have to do other things, and you'll see what that is. Okay. Uh, the dioecious ones are separate male and female. The monoecious ones are hermaphroditic, which means they're not um, they're hermaphrodites, which means they have both male and female genitalia in one animal. Okay, um, like the organism, how it works, and he works on this little worm called C. elegans. C. elegans has a male, and they have hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites have males and females. Okay. Males and female reproductive organs in one same animal. Okay. All right. So why are drugs for parasitic Helminths toxic to the host? Simply because they are multicellular eukaryotic animals. We are multicellular eukaryotic animals, and therefore we share more common ancestry with them than, say, with bacteria, okay, or plants. And therefore, what affects them usually affects us. And there are exceptions to that rule, which we'll talk about. Okay. 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 The first type of Platyhelminths are flukes. Flukes are flat. They're leaf shaped. Okay. They absorb, like I said, they don't have a digestive system at all. Okay. The types of flukes that live in other places do. These guys don't. Okay. So they either infect your lungs or blood. Okay. And what they do is just absorb food. Okay, through their body. See how? So this is their whole body. This is a hermaphrodite. So they have both testes and ovaries. See how primitive their intestines actually are. They just kind of it's just a long little rope. It's really simple. Okay, they have much more room for reproductive organs. Okay, so this is reproduction of the life fluke. Okay, so they have a lot of different. Some of these flukes actually have a lot of different hosts, and it's kind of freaky. I think the biggest one has something like 7 hosts they have to go through. Um, but the difference between the intermediate host and definitive host is the definitive host is where sexual reproduction occurs. The intermediate host is where you either have no reproduction occurring or asexual reproduction occurring. Okay. All right. The second type, tapeworms. Okay. Tapeworms. I'm sure you guys have seen tapeworms before or seen pictures of tapeworms before. They're kind of this long growth thing that live inside our intestines. In fact, pretty sure like you or someone you know has tapeworms. Usually we don't know it. And some people, like it was a fad at one point where people ate tapeworms because they wanted to lose weight. Um, Not a good thing, by the way. But um, so this is a tapeworm. So all tapeworms do is they get into your intestines and they use the hooks and hang onto your intestines. And this is paper thin, and so it doesn't even have a digestive tract. It just absorbs through, and these things eventually break. Like you grow new one of these, and these things eventually break off one by one, and they come out in the feces, and basically they have ovaries and testes, and they reproduce themselves into new tapeworms, and it spreads fecal orally. Okay. Cestodes, um, these guys, okay, you can get them Oops, crap. Okay. Humans are the definitive host of these guys, okay, which means they reproduce inside the human. The Tenia solium, this is the pork tapeworm, okay. Okay, this is a pork tapeworm. This is so. This is why you don't eat undercooked pork. Okay, you can eat undercooked steak. You can't eat undercooked pork. Okay, that's why you never, ask for a rare pork chop. Okay, these the eggs from hospital are ingested. They hatch into the larvae. They bore into the intestinal wall. Okay, and these basically what we generate. Let's explain. Okay, if we eat the eggs, okay, they're okay, and we basically they stay in the intestines. Okay, they bore in the intestinal wall and they're okay. But occasionally, what happens is we eat them, and instead of going, they grow up. They go through our intestines and into our muscles, and that is a serious thing. Okay, even rare, they go into our brains, and that is a very, very bad thing. Okay. 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 Roundworms. Okay. Roundworms are round, so they're no longer flat, right? So they're round, so they can't really just absorb nutrients through, and therefore they need a more complete digestive tract. Okay. Um, like most, there's millions of flatworms. None of them you have to really know, um, because they don't really interact with humans. Same with nematodes. There's lots and lots of them everywhere. You don't really have to know them because you don't ever really come in contact with them. Okay. The roundworms that we focus on are the parasitic ones. Okay. And these are the types. Okay. Uh, so this is the pinworm. Okay. The pinworm spreads a lot in children. Okay, especially like preschool age and kindergarten, where they're not quite as they're dirtier, and care less about wiping themselves, and so these guys can spread fecal oral. Okay, and so these guys look like this. They inhabit, they get into the intestine, you eat them, they get into the large intestine, they develop in the intestine, and they grow in the intestine. And at night, when you're sleeping, you have a pattern of movement that you don't move very much. Your muscles are paralyzed, and they sense this, and that's when they come out. And they come out of the anus, and they lay their eggs near the anal opening, and you spread the the eggs that way. Okay, like this is one of the symptoms. Is as a kid, like all of a sudden your butt starts itching really really dramatically at night, and you start scratching, and when you scratch, what you're doing actually is picking up the eggs on your hands and you spread them everywhere. Okay, so like my child had this about a year ago, and it was a pain in the ass to get rid of it. So we like all of us had to drink this like medication, um, because if she had it, we'll probably have it too. And so not fun. Um, this is heartworm. Okay. Um, for those of you guys who are dog lovers, this is why the dogs need heartworm medication, because this shit happens. Um, so make sure they get it. All right. Arthropod vectors. Okay. So arthropods are animals with segmented bodies, so basically insects, arachnids. Okay. Vectors are arthropods that carry pathogenic organisms. So there you go. Okay. Um, Mosquitoes and ticks and fleas, etc., etc. Okay. Flies, kissing bugs. Okay. Um, Again, you should know what definitive host is. A definitive host is when the microbe's sexual reproductive phase occurs in the definitive host. Okay, you should definitely know the difference between mechanical and biological transmission. Basically, biological transmission, there is either replication of the asexual cycle or the sexual cycle. Okay, mechanical transmission, there is no replication at all. Okay. Um, okay. Uh, okay. So hold on. Let me give you guys an example. Okay. I think we explain this later. In malaria, okay, um, the definitive host is actually the mosquito. Malaria actually replicates in the mosquito. Okay. For something like mechanical transmission, um, if a fly lands on a pile of food and then lands on you, or a fly lands on a pile of shit, picks up bacteria out of his legs, lands on you, you pick up the bacteria, that is mechanical transmission. Okay, mosquito bites someone with HIV blood, bites you next, transmits the HIV. Like that will never happen. Okay, so don't worry about it. It's not actually a way that HIV can be transmitted. But if that happened, that will still be mechanical transmission because there's no replication inside the mosquito. Okay. All right. Okay. So that's it. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys.